My name is Brent Garrison. I am a construction consultant that primarily focuses on finance, overall business, and mergers and acquisitions. I've been in the construction industry for close to, since I was 13 years old. I'm 35 now, so whatever that math is. I was lucky enough that when I was a kid, my best friend's father owned a construction company doing luxury real estate. And I worked for him every summer, mainly doing framing projects. So I would do subfloors, framing out walls, framing out windows, doors, attics. And I did that every summer until I turned 18. And then after I turned 18 years old, I became an electrician, did that for a couple years, and then worked in the oil rigs for a little bit because it made more money. And I ended up joining the Navy, becoming a U.S. Navy CB, which is construction battalion. And I did almost 6 years with the Navy CBs and learned a lot, did a lot of cool things, deployed to some pretty cool places. And after that, I got out. I used my GI Bill to get a degree in construction management. And then when I got out, I got pretty lucky. While I was going to school, I landed a job with a pretty big electrical firm out in St. Petersburg, Florida. And they primarily focused in high-rises and multifamily construction. And right out the gate, I actually applied to become a field engineer, and they actually hired me on as an assistant project manager, which was pretty cool and also nerve-wracking at the same time, considering I had never been in that kind of role before. And I did that for 2.5 years, and then I found another company. Well, let me go back. So yeah, I got hired on as a assistant project manager. I learned a lot of stuff, man. I learned how to do, the big thing was reading and thoroughly going through contracts and the scopes of work. Learned all the processes and procedures, all the SOPs that they had, which were phenomenal. I learned obviously how to manage a project, how to drill a budget, how to, stay on track, hit milestones, stay in budget, and more importantly, make money. And anybody that's been in construction for a while knows that the primary way you make money these days is through change orders, and how to just cover your own ass. And you're always going to have people try to hit you with chargebacks, and how you can offset and mitigate risk as much as possible. I can read and make Gantt charts, create a schedule, write RFIs, create submittal packages, just stuff like that. And then after some time with them, I left and I decided to go into government contracting. I did that for quite some time as well. I actually left the company I was with and actually went in as a field engineer. And I went that route and technically took a title cut, but went up in pay. So it kind of worked out. I didn't really care about the title, to be honest, at that time. So I went in as an engineer. I became an engineer, did that for some time, became an engineer level 2, then they pretty much saw the value that I brought to the table, and eventually worked my way to project manager from engineer level 2. And then did that for some time, and then decided, while I was at that company, I met for the first time a construction consultant. Heard the things he was saying, seeing the things he was doing, and truthfully, when it came to the business side of the house, there was really nothing he knew that I did not. Matter of fact, there would be times even where I would propose that we would do something, we would consult with the consultant, and he would end up pretty much delivering the same speech that I gave, but with a PowerPoint, and would charge $10,000. And I remember thinking, man, I came up with that and gave it to the company for nothing. And that's when it kind of sparked my interest and kind of gave me the idea of maybe I should start considering going that route. The one thing that this consultant had that I didn't at the time, was he had mass knowledge in government contracts, and how to work them, how to land them, how to navigate them, and there are some things and some tricks with that. But as luck would have it, I know people that are also really good at it. I picked their brain at it, and eventually, we decided to team up, and not only do I pick his brain still, but now I got him as a teammate, and he's always just one phone call away, and he's pretty good at this kind of stuff. He's done it with major consulting firms. I won't say it just because I don't want to get him in any trouble, but a big one. And he's kind of, helped me navigate the waters of this consulting thing as well. With that being said, at school, when I went to get my degree in construction management, I learned estimating, bidding, and obviously I was doing some of that as well whenever I was working at these firms, takeoffs and stuff like that, but cost analysis and all these, things. But in school, the one thing that I learned that I found to be incredibly beneficial was construction finance. I've been pretty good with finance for a while. I read a lot of books on finance. When I was on deployments, I would read a lot of financial books, how to take money and make more money with it. And so I was pretty comfortable in it, but I did learn some things that are construction specific that I thought were very interesting and pretty cool things to try out, and have benefited me since. Also, while in school, learning, understanding and negotiating construction contracts, that is a huge one, especially with construction. Your contract is the law at that point. And so knowing what you're getting into, understanding what you're doing, and knowing that you can negotiate terms. You may not be able to get a term completely thrown out, but you might be able to have an attorney, your attorney specifically, add some things to it that benefit you and cover you in your best interests. And so these are just kind of the things I've learned over the years and over time. And and I often get asked, what does a consultant really do? That's a fair question. More than anything, what we do is we help you grow faster than you would on your own. We help you jump over some hurdles, and we're problem solvers, right? And so in order to be a problem solver, obviously you need to have some sort of experience. You can't just wake up one day, you know what, I'm gonna know. Like, for instance, I know nothing about running a bakery. I would not go and start telling a baker how to start baking, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't be a consultant for a baker or a bakery. What it means is for instance, I have zero knowledge in HVAC, other than there's a thermostat, you turn it on, and whether that thing controls whether or not hot air or cold air comes out, right? That's all I know from HVAC. But with that being said, I may not know those things, but what I do know is you got a brand new guy who's trying to start his own HVAC company. He's a great HVAC guy. He's running out the gate strong, and he's like, man, I'm motivated, but I don't really know anything about business. Well, and that's the thing, right? Just because you're a phenomenal HVAC guy, an HVAC tech or journeyman, that doesn't mean you're a good businessman, or that you know anything about business, or that you have any business starting a business, right? And that's kind of where I come into play, or anyone like me in my role come into play. And also, guys that have been running Fortune 100 companies, they still hire consultants because they are so worried about getting the next contract, winning the next bid, and bringing more money in the door, because that's ultimately what they do, that they don't have time to solve every single problem. So what they do is they third party it out, and those typically are consultants solving their problems that they don't have time to think about all day. And so you may have a guy that's just starting out, and he's a phenomenal HVAC guy. Well, I'm not going to tell him how to do HVAC. I'm not going to tell him how to install HVAC units or run duct or how to, weld. I'm not going to tell him any of that. He should already know those things. That's not my job to do that. And honestly, if he's asking me how to do that, he should probably just stop now, or, you know, maybe stay in the field a little longer. But that doesn't also necessarily mean that you can't be a guy that knows nothing about an HVAC system and run an HVAC company, right? There are plenty of people that buy HVAC companies that know nothing about HVAC other than there's good money in it. So where I'm going with all this is that, you know, you may have a guy who says, hey, I'm starting this HVAC company, but I don't know how to estimate to win this job. Like, what's a good price? Okay, fair enough. Let me show you how. Okay, well, I don't know, you know, where to even go to bid on jobs. How do I do that? Fair enough. Here you go. Let me show you how to do that. You know, and then the big one, especially when I'm getting clients that are new, they're trying to break out, and they say things like, you know, man, I'm brand new, I got recommended to you, but here's the thing, I have like no money, right? I'm trying to figure this thing out, so I don't know how I'm supposed to pay you, and I also don't know how I'm supposed to pay anybody. Like, let's say I win this contract. And most contracts, especially if you're talking about government contracts, you don't even get paid till 30 days after the work is complete. Understood. So you don't know how you're going to pay me. You don't know how, you know, the job's big enough to where it can't just be you and your brother or you and your brother-in-law running things. Like, you need people, right? And so to give you an example of what I would do in that scenario to bring value to the table is, don't worry about paying me up front. You'll pay me after you, well, go back. Don't stress not paying me. I can solve that problem of you paying me. It benefits me to solve these problems, and you're going to pay me up front. And also, if you do what I say, you're going to be able to hire some people, and you're going to be able to cover payroll. So an example of that would be this. Hey, I'm an HVAC guy. I'm trying to win this bid, but even if I win it, they don't pay me till 30 days after I get paid. I don't know what to do. Fair enough. So what I would say is first of all, let's estimate this and let's get a good bid. A good bid doesn't mean, you know, underbidding. They don't always want to see the lowest price. You know, the truth is like, cheap doesn't mean good, but they do typically try to find the guy that's in the middle, right? Not the highest, not the lowest, but somewhere in the middle. Unless the guy that bid high has just got a sick reputation and is extremely good and they know what they're getting, and they probably have a standing relationship with those guys. So what that means is what you can do is you can say, hey, I'm going to bid on this. You win the bid, and what I would say is okay, now we got to get you people, we got to get you some employees. I don't know how to hire employees. Never done that before. Fair enough. We'll walk you through that process. Okay, now I got employees. How am I going to pay them? What I would recommend in that scenario is that we go to a bank and we show the bank, hey, look, I've got this contract that holds contract value, and I want to take a loan against the contract value. The bank sees that contract as guaranteed money, right? When they see that, they go, oh, okay, so you've actually got the money, you just don't have it yet. Correct. What do you want to do with the money? Working capital and cover payroll. So what you've basically just told them is, I'm using this to buy material and cover paying my employees. Okay, standard stuff. So now you can take out a loan, a portion of what you're going to get out against the contract value. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put that in a high interest yield account and create what they call a revolving door of credit. And then that should either cover your payroll or at least offset a lot of it. And so now you're making interest on your money sitting there. Let's say this project doesn't even start for a little while. Okay, perfect. So that means you've got time to hire some people. Hey, can you start on this date? That money can sit in that high interest yielding account, high yield account, and draw some interest and make money on the money just sitting there. You can structure that loan to where you don't pay it back until basically the construction is either done or milestones are met. So you say, hey, you know, there are sometimes a contract will say like, hey, you know, once we meet these milestones, we'll get paid X amount. For instance, like if you're doing a roof, you can say, hey, we're going to get paid. This job is going to start. I'm going to throw a random date out for fun, March 1st. We're going to send some guys out and set up scaffolding, and that's going to be our mobilization fee, and we charge a $5,000 mobilization fee. Okay, cool. So what ends up happening is you'll send off I just lost my words, but you will basically fill out, it can be even an Excel sheet showing, hey, I sent this off to the GC, and I'm showing that mobilization is at 100%. We're completely mobilized. Okay, cool. And let's say because you're starting March 1st, you did that February 28th. Okay, cool. So that means in 30 days, you should get paid for that mobilization fee, that $5,000. And the bank will say, okay, well then 30 days after February 28th, we expect to see a percentage of that $5,000. And you just keep doing that over and over and over. So we plan on starting roof tear off and be on March 1st and being done, we'll just say March 7th, you know. Okay, cool. So then you'll sit there and track your progress the entire time. And March 7th, depending on if it's a commercial roof, that could be pretty aggressive. So you may say March 14th. So you'll sit there and track it, and next thing you know, you're at 100%. And let's say that 100% of roof tear off is paying you $30,000. The bank is going to want a percentage of that $30,000 to go towards that loan, and so on and so forth. And now remember, that loan is paying for your guys's payroll and material. So, you know, you're going to need to be able to manage that appropriately and make sure you're not going over budget, because when that money runs out, you could find yourself, you know, not paying your guys. And, you know, nobody works for free, right? And I'm not saying that you'll hear stories all the time of guys saying, hey man, like, I haven't been paid in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Like, what's going on? I haven't had a paycheck in a month and a half. And people will start looking for another job. I have seen some rare cases where guys have that happen and they're saying, dude, I haven't been paid in 2 months. And I don't know about you guys, but I cannot afford to go 2 months without pay, especially when I've been working, right? And so you can find yourself into some hot water, and I've had to come in and clean some jobs up that were exactly that. And, you know, the very first thing I had to say is, hey, we got to get these guys paid. Well, I don't have any money. Well, we're going to fix that today. And I gave you the solution. So that's just that is just one of many things that we can come in, my team can come in and do and help solve some problems, you know. And then again, you know, another big one is hey, I want to start an HVAC company or electrical company or plumbing company, or it could even be an IT company, but it will work, but construction's my bread and butter. And they may say like, hey, you know, I want to start my own thing. I'm tired of working for a guy. I'm tired of working for this guy, getting him, you know, I'm the one doing all the work and he's getting rich. Couldn't agree more. Hope you know what you're getting into though, because this isn't going to be, you know, buying Hummers and going on picnics and, you know, going out on your yacht every weekend. You're gonna have to really make this work out the way that you're wanting it to, and then eventually, if you do it right and you stick with it, it could lead to that, right? And so I've seen it to where, you know, hey, I'm gonna start my own company, and the first thing I always ask is, have you already started it? Yes. Are you bootstrapping it? Meaning, are you just starting this up from nothing? And a lot of times the answer is yes, because most people don't know that they can just buy an existing company, which when you do that, you're buying assets and revenue. And it's the smart way of doing things, but there is a way of going about it, and my team helps with that. That is mergers and acquisitions. At that point, since, you know, you want to acquire a company a lot of times, but that doesn't mean that you can't merge either. But a lot of times, especially in the beginning, nobody's going to merge with a nobody, and so you're going to have to acquire it. And that doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to buy 100% of it. Sometimes you got guys who want to sell their company, but it's also their baby, and they don't want to just sell it to anybody. And so you may have to kind of hold their hand and walk them through this whole deal and say, hey, listen, like, we're willing to do seller's finance. You know, and here's the deal. When you decide to do seller's finance, you are saying you're going to become the bank, and so you get to pick the term. You get to pick the price, but we pick the terms. And so sometimes it just goes like that, right? And it's important to know what the EBITDA of that company is, and, you know, if they're doing a crazy number off that EBITDA, if it's even worth it. But because the multiplication factor can go off of many things, but it's usually based off the industry. So, you know, sometimes it's easier to buy a company, but they don't necessarily want to sell it to a guy that hasn't been doing this for very long. And so we may have to negotiate a deal where, hey, you know, you set up seller's finance, you give me a price, And for the first 3 years, you're going to stay working it with me at 0 interest. All the money's going to the principal, and all the assets and all the cash stay in. And also, we're going to do a 51-49 split. So you'll still own 49% of the company, but I'll be majority holder, which really means you own the company, but he still has 49%. And then after the 3rd year, I get the chance to pay you off 100% in cash. And a lot of times they'll take that deal, because if it doesn't work out, they just get their company back. What they don't know is that by that time you will have added value to the company. The company will be worth more, and you can do you can, just like in real estate, you can refinance a company at its value, 75% of its value, and you can pay the guy off, right? And sometimes, like, if a company doesn't really have good accounting or books, they don't even know that they have cash in the company, right? And you can use the cash that's already in it to pay him off. I have had that happen. I have seen that happen once or twice. But a lot of times what you've done is you've bought more fleet trucks, or you've bought equipment, or you've bought this and that, and all those things that you can refinance, because those are assets on a balance sheet. And you can do things like that. Man, there's a bunch of stuff you can do, right? I mean, also, again, contract value. You may have just made the money to pay the guy back. Nothing wrong with that either. So there's a bunch of things you can do, and a lot of people don't know that you can do these types of things, and that's where we come in and we hold your hand through the process, and we help you, and obviously we get paid for that service. But I would say that anybody that is a project manager, or an electrician or a plumber or an HVAC tech, man, there's so much opportunity out here, man, and there is a lot of money on the table. I've seen it time and time again where an electrician who's been working for a big company sees the money that the company's making, and he thinks to himself, or herself, I'm the one doing all the work. Why am I not cashing in on this? And 6 months later, they're asking for their job back because they crashed and burned, and they were amazing electricians, they're amazing plumbers, but they just don't know anything about business. And it is 2 different worlds. And then I have seen guys that think because they know business and they understand, how money works and how to get loans and how to talk to banks, which is all important stuff, that they're just going to be amazing at running an electrical company or a plumbing company, and that's just not the case sometimes. I have seen it work out too, where they knew nothing, but they did the right things. They hired on the right people, and they built the right team and built the right board. And sometimes, we also hold your hand through that on how to build a team, how to find your board members, and how to make this thing work, because you want people that have a track record, and a good one at that. And there are ways to recruit those guys and get them on your board, and then you build instant credibility, and then it makes getting loans and everything else much easier as well. So yeah, that's a kind of a lot for an introductory video, and this is my first one, and I'm sure it's obvious I'm kind of nervous about it. For some reason, I'm uncomfortable in front of a camera, but hopefully that passes with time. But I'm not a big social media guy. I've gotten all my clientele and all the work I've gotten just simply through word of mouth and networks and connections and with people, and people just saying like, hey, I use this guy and he's pretty good, you ought to give him a call. And I've worked with people that were, like I said, starting a company, bootstrapping it, had little to no money, or maybe they had some funds saved, and maybe some assets, maybe they had some equity in their home, or there's been a number of cases. I've also worked with people that had absolutely nothing, and I've had to basically hold their hand through a big process and make them sign a contract that let them know that the minute they won this bid, that they were going to take a loan out against the contract value and pay me, and hold their hand and let them know that they also need to use this to cover payroll and not buy a new truck. Boy, sometimes that goes sideways, because you get some people, they see the money, they see the dollar signs, and they think, oh, now I can go buy a new GMC Denali. And it's like, man, no, you got mouths to feed, brother. You got to take care of your people. And I cannot stress, man, how important it is to take care of your people. So one of the best advice I give right out the gate is figure out you know, kind of do some recon and figure out who's paying what around here, and then be the guy that pays better and gets your guys nicer stuff, better trucks. You know, figure out incentives. Like, man, I think it's silly to make your guys pay for their own tools. And I understand people say, well, if they quit, who cares? Take care of them, and they won't, you know? Man, give them, as they said in The Godfather, give him an offer so good he couldn't refuse it. I know that kind of doesn't really, I know that kind of is, I'm not saying, you know, threaten people like they do in that movie, but I mean, actually take care of your people to the point where they don't want to quit. And I think Sir Richard Branson is a great example of that. And that's kind of, I've read his book, and I've kind of stole that idea from him, and man, it's a good one. And man, it makes you liked. You know, when your employees are going around saying like, no man, that guy, he takes care of me, man, he takes care of us, that's a good company. I promise you won't have hiring issues, and they will promote your business for you. Man, they want to work hard for you because you treat them well, and then they could be at the grocery store and run into somebody you never know who works at another company who's trying to find a good plumbing company to come do this subdivision. And man, dude, I'm telling you, these guys, man, that I work for, they're great. We do good work. Well, I mean, they'll actually start taking pride in what they do and working for you. But you got to take care of them. And so the Denali's and the Porsches and all that have to wait, man. They will come. They will come, but it's got to wait. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what I do. Is I'm a problem solver, and I kind of protect you from yourself at times too. And sometimes, especially new business owners, don't like hearing it. The old school guys who've been around for a while and they're not bootstrapping it, or maybe they did, but you know, I've worked with companies, I've worked with people that, you know, have $0 in the bank when they're just starting out, and I've worked with people that got, you know, $100 million in the bank, and they've got several contracts backlogged that's probably valued over $1 billion. Contract value of $1 billion. So, you know, I mean, and truth be told, everybody has problems, and I'm a really good problem solver. I enjoy solving problems, and man, I love it. I really do. I enjoy it. And I'm the type of guy, for whatever reason, I'm better at telling you how to solve your problem, and when it comes to mine, I'm not as good at it for some reason. But man, I am good at it, what I do, and I enjoy what I do, and man, when it's working out the way it's supposed to, it's a lot of fun. But like I said, this is the one of many videos soon to come, and I'm just gonna keep on doing it, man, and hopefully these videos get better as time goes on. So see you on the next